Hello, and welcome back to the Coupe de Ville podcast. I am Scott Cooper, and this is my second video, and today we will be doing a recap of all the football, EPL and Europe over the weekend. So it was great to have football back. The Premier League, Bundesliga, Ligue 1 started last week, and we also had the La Liga start, so it was really great to have some football back, have the crowds back, and let's get into some of the games. The first one in the Premier League, the big game, was Tottenham versus Manchester City. A lot of stories in this game. The big one, of course, was no Harry Kane in the Spurs lineup. He wasn't even in sight. Apparently, he was watching in the stadium somewhere, but we didn't see him, and that poses a lot of questions as to is he going, is he not going to City. You would think that, well, my feeling is that he's probably gone by the fact that he wasn't even sighted in the stadium, so that's an interesting one. We also had Nuno, Espirito Santos' first match in charge of Tottenham. And, he had the Harry Kane issue, over his head. And it would be interesting to see how Tottenham went about it. From the Manchester City point of view, the big story was Jack Grealish, the £100 million Jack Grealish, his debut. And of course, for me, being a Villa fan, it was pretty weird to see him in the light blue of Manchester City. But, it is what it is. I'm sort of over it now. But, I thought he played okay for the first sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. He looked all right, but wasn't the best debut. And, of course, Tottenham won the game. I thought it was a good match. I thought City started well, had a few chances. Riyad Mahrez had a really good chance, and then as the game progressed and Tottenham found themselves in with a sniff, they played very well on the counter attack. Son, Mora, and Bergwijn as the front three were very fluid, very dynamic, drove with the ball, moving in and out of that sort of number 10 position. Son coming off the left, some playing as a 9 at times. It was quite interesting to see. And I think one of the questions to come out of the game is, have we undervalued Nuno a little bit? Because a lot of people were saying after Jose Mourinho, the decision to go with Nuno, it was a similar sort of style. He was, quite defensive at Wolves and this sort of thing. And I think that really is a little unfair because, I saw quite a bit of Wolves when they were in the Championship, and they won the Championship because Villa were, in the Championship at the same time, and they played quite a expansive, good brand of football, and I think they continued that in their first year or two in the Premier League. Obviously, last year they had a disappointing year, but there was the Jimenez injury and other things. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Nuno goes if Harry Kane does leave. Can he get them into Europe or pushing for the top 4 at least? And will he have time to spend the money that he gets from Kane if Kane does decide, or if City and Spurs can come to some sort of agreement? So that's going to be interesting. City, on the other hand, it's a defeat, an early defeat. Can they afford another slow start like last year? I'm not too sure. I think they're obviously a great team, and I'm expecting them to come back. And when they get their players back, especially in defence. The likes of Ake and Mendy, I don't think will play very often, and Kyle Walker, John Stones will come back in. Rodri probably comes back in. And I expect them to really, be a lot better. But they had a really bad start last year, and I don't think they can afford to do that again because Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United all look good, and it's going to be an interesting race and a lot tighter than last year, I think, especially with Chelsea. So the next game, we touched on United, and they looked very good. That was the early kickoff on Saturday, and they were playing Leeds, and they beat them 5-1. Pogba and Fernandes, brilliant. Pogba, 4 assists, unbelievable. He only got 3 assists all season last year. So is this the Paul Pogba we're going to see for the rest of the season? History says probably not. But, if United fans must be excited with that performance. I know Leeds were awful, like terrible, so open. Through the middle of the park, they just, evacuated that whole area at times and got completely run over. In that early stage of the second half, Greenwood, brilliant. That was a brilliant goal. The pass, the assist from Pogba, the finish. Can United push City? I'm going to say no, but they probably need 2 or 3 more players. But Varane will come in, and I'm sure he'll make a good impact. And Cavani is, still there too if he can, stay fit. I think they'll be up there, but it's going to be very tight, and I think they'll be top 4, and that's about it. So going on to the next match was Norwich versus Liverpool. That was a good game. It started off, quite tight. I thought Norwich started well, but then Liverpool, with Van Dijk back, with the front 3 starting to click like they were last year. Jota with the early goal. Salah with a brilliant strike with his left foot, absolute brilliant goal. And they look like they're back in business. I think the midfield will be the question mark for them. Losing Gigi Wijnaldum to PSG. Can they fill that hole? Because you got Henderson, you got Fabinho, then it's Thiago and Curtis Jones and these kind of guys, and can they have that same drive that they had when they won the league from that midfield? Again, I'm thinking they're probably not going to be up there with the Cities and the Chelseas, but they'll be in and around the top 4, and most people are saying that they should be 3rd or 4th. It's going to be between them and United, which seems plausible. So, but talking about Chelsea, they had a good win. They were home to Crystal Palace. First game for Patrick Vieira as manager of Palace, and it couldn't have got much tougher away at Chelsea. Chelsea just seemed like a machine at the moment. And Lukaku was in quarantine, didn't play. So when he comes in, this could really be a serious team. I mean, they are the European champions. They're serious already without him. And I think Timo Werner, who was the big problem last season with the missed chances, will get better. And if he can play sort of off the left with Lukaku through the middle, I think that could be quite a deadly sort of partnership for them. And something really to watch going forward, because I think Lukaku suits that Thomas Tuchel sort of counter-attacking style. And if anyone watched much Serie A last year with Inter, he had played a similar style with Antonio Conte. And when he's got the space and another sort of quick forward to play off. He leaned himself up. He looks a lot faster, stronger, more powerful running, and I think he's going to suit the Chelsea style. I think he could be down for a big season. So Chelsea had a good game. Pulisic scored, and the other scorer was Shabla, who played in the Super Cup and looked good, and he had another good game and scored a great goal. And to see him, in tears and that sort of thing was great. It was good to see a bit of raw emotion for someone scoring on their Premier League debut. Someone who's come up through the system, and it begs the question: do they need Koundé, who they've been linked with from Seville? So, because the one thing was, maybe their defence was a bit aging with Ashley Lapleta and Thiago Silva. Is Christensen the real deal? This sort of thing. So, I think he's going to add to that mix. And, if they didn't make any more signings and didn't sign a centre back, then I still think they can have a very, very, very good season. So, but Patrick Vieira, on the other hand, and Crystal Palace, I think they're in for a long season. They got Brentford next week, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they respond in that game. Because, obviously, Chelsea away, they're not really expecting to get much out of that game. And it's going to be really interesting to see what sort of philosophy Vieira goes into with that game. Because he, in his interviews, he talks a lot about, want to be more progressive, more sort of on the front foot, play a more open style than, previously under Roy Hodgson. So, that can very easily, that sounds good, but, we've seen it with Norwich, 2 years ago, and other teams. If you're too expansive when you're down there, you can very easily get found out. So the first game of the season was on the Friday night game, Brentford versus Arsenal. And that was another great game. The fans were fantastic. It was a great decision to put that game as the first game of the season, because you've got the newly promoted team, first time in the Premier League for 70-odd years, and they play a very interesting style, and they're going to be interesting to watch. They're another, a team that's come up that play a expansive style. That their coach, is a very interesting coach, Thomas Frank. And he's got some good players in there. Even Tony, I think he's going to score goals in the Premier League, and it's a great start. And they just absolutely demolished Arsenal in terms of the physicality, the commitment, the sort of fighting for every ball. There was the goal from the long throw-in, which, must bring nightmares to Arsenal fans, because that sort of thing, they've been suffering for a while. The kind of, when a team just, lumps balls in the box and sort of goes at them and, tries to be physical, they do have a very soft sort of centre, and, you'd think Ben White coming in, that would help them there, but he had a pretty poor game, as did the other centre-backs, and Tony absolutely bossed it, and, it was a really enjoyable game. But I think, you got to give Arsenal some credit in that Arteta is trying to bring the kids through. Martinelli started this game, played okay. Like, he looks good. I think he's a good player for them, a good option. And of course, you got Saka and Smith Rowe. So he's going with the youth, and I think that's correct. And but yeah, he's going to have to get some results soon, Arteta, because he could be one of the managers under pressure come Christmas if things don't go their way. Watford versus Villa. I did that in my first video, so if you want to go to the channel and just check out the other video, but Obviously, it wasn't a very good game for us. Watford looked really good, and they're going to be really happy with that. And, they were full of running and destroyed us. But if you want to hear more, probably go to the other video, because I'm going to be doing a sort of deep dive into Villa every week, and then a more general sort of video like this one, talking about all the other games. So check out that video. And also like and subscribe, please. Everton versus Southampton was one of the other 3:00 kickoffs on Saturday, and this was an interesting game in terms of like narrative, and Rafa at Everton, the Liverpool legend. How would the fans take to him? And there's been a lot of Everton fans that have been very vocal in their sort of their dislike of the decision by the board to bring him in. Also, the style of play is, he's a very experienced manager, good manager, but, is it the right fit? And they went 1-0 down quite early to Adam Armstrong, new signing from the Championship, Blackburn, for Southampton, and he scored a very well-taken goal, and I think he's a pretty good signing for them. Losing Ings, they really had to sort of plug that gap, and I think he'll score some goals. But then after that, I think the problems that we're going to see going forward with the Southampton sort of rear their ugly head. And yeah, they're in a bit of trouble. I think I can't see them finishing, in the top half. They could well easily be part of a relegation battle this year. I know that Hasenhüttl, the Southampton boss, is one of the favourites to get fired first, so that hopefully won't happen, because I think he's a good manager, but losing Ings, Vestergaard, Bertrand, it's going to be really tough for them. We'll have to wait and see how they do in the next few games. The other game on the Sunday was Newcastle versus West Ham, and that was a brilliant game. Really, really fun game to watch. Newcastle started really well. Alan Saint-Maximin, unbelievable. The pace that he goes at defenders and the turns. I mean, it looks like FIFA-ish, at times. But he does seem to have an end product a bit more this year. He was making things happen. He got an assist, great assist for Wilson, and they look really good in that first half. But then West Ham, and you're starting to think, oh well, maybe West Ham might not, be what they were last year. But they came back in that second half brilliantly. Rice, Bowen, Fornells, Antonio scored a cracking goal, I think that I don't think they will have quite as good a year as last year, but they do have firepower, and if they can keep Antonio fit, there is talk of they're going to go in for Origi, but because I do think they need another striker, but they've got a good base there, and Moyes seems to be hitting some home runs, and to come back, from being behind and to to win that game 4-2 quite comfortably in the end was really impressive for them. There were also wins for Leicester against Wolves and Brighton against Burnley. Nothing really strange there, just pretty expected. But that was pretty much the Premier League for this weekend. So moving to the big game, or the big news abroad, was Messi's unveiling at PSG, along with Donnarumma, Hakimi, who else they got? Sergio Ramos, of course, yes. And it was to see all them there, and to see this sort of like, it's something like a Harlem Globetrotters type, vibe you're getting from PSG. French football has really been in the shadows for a long time, and say what you want about PSG, the oil money, the Qatari owners, and all that. Like, yes, it might not be good for sort of traditionalists, but to see a front line of Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar is going to be pretty crazy. I don't know how the French league are going to be able to handle that. But the big thing for them is the Champions League, and we won't really have any kind of questions answered until the Champions League starts up for them. And they've got an amazing team. Wijnaldum as well signing is brilliant for them. Pochettino has a lot of egos there, and it's going to be interesting to see how he makes it all fix. But I think they're obviously going to be there or thereabouts, aren't they? But the Holy Grail is that Champions League, and with City and Bayern and Chelsea and a few others, it's going to be really interesting to see, if Messi can win another Champions League. Of course, what's happening with Mbappe's contract, because he only has 1 year left. Rumours are that he wants to run down his contract and go to Real Madrid next season. But now that Messi's there, maybe he thinks, I might just hang on a year or two and, go there a bit later. La Liga seems to be kind of in a bit of turmoil right now. And, he's got a great team around him on paper. So, it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. But talk about Mbappe, the other young superstar in European football right now is, of course, Erling Haaland. And Dortmund started off their season at home to Frankfurt on Saturday, and they won 5-2, and he was insane. If you haven't seen this, please go check out the highlights. 3 assists, 2 goals, and there was one goal in particular where the ball went over the top. It was just him and the sweeper. The ball sort of bounces and the sweeper just hesitates a little bit, and you can't do that. He was just so ruthless. Takes it off his toes. Side foot in the corner. Boom. Like, he is a goal-scoring machine. And, I also watched it because I'm taping this on Wednesday. I watched the Super Cup last night, and he was quite good in that too. But Bayern, after dropping points in their first match, won the Super Cup 3-1. Lewandowski 2 goals. The first one, brilliant header. Second one, just defensive mistake. And that's the big question in the German league is you've got Haaland for Dortmund, right? You've got some good other attacking players. You got the likes of Bellingham, but the defense is so shocking that I can't see them beating Bayern. And I think this Super Cup summed it up perfectly. Every time Dortmund went forward, they looked dangerous, and they got the big man, and he's fantastic. But Bayern just get it done. They lost Alaba, they lost Martinez, a few other players, and Nagelsmann coming in from Leipzig as the coach, hadn't won a trophy. A lot of pressure, of course, and he's got his first trophy under the belt now. Not a big one, of course. It's really just a glorified friendly, but I think in this particular instance, it had a bit more behind it because Dortmund were knocking on the door, and a lot of people were tipping Dortmund to win that game on the back of Saturday's result and Haaland. So that was interesting. Spain, the La Liga started as well, and the big stories were, how would Barcelona look after Messi? Gerard Piqué took the 50% pay cut, and that allowed them to register Garcia from Man City, who they signed, and Memphis Depay. Memphis Depay looked really good, and so did Barcelona. Fantastic, actually. They'd be very happy, I think, with their first game. I mean, 4-2 flattened Sociedad, who were a top team, last season. Finished fifth, and with the likes of Isaac and who didn't play this game, but they had a good season last year, and this was a real test. And I think they will be the most happy out of the big three in La Liga for sure after the first weekend. The other sort of question is Braithwaite for me. I think that's an interesting one because I think they were trying to get rid of him because they're trying to get rid of everyone at the moment because of this whole ridiculous situation with the wages and the fact that their wages is 110% of their revenue, and it's a real mess like financially. But he probably thinks now, I'm going to get a few games here and I could get some goals and really sort of raise my profile from this guy who was brought in just as a body, really, sort of illegally with last season. They, got some sort of special case that they could sign him, but after the deadline, and that is dodgy in itself. But anyway, he's there now, and he scored 2 goals and looked really good. So, their big rivals, Real Madrid, who somehow are the favourites with the bookies for La Liga. I don't know how that happens, but it was the Ancelotti's first game. They won 4-1. Karim Benzema just left off where after like a pretty decent Euros. I mean, he scored goals, but France didn't have the best time as a team, and he sort of went in and out of games a bit. But last season in La Liga, he was fantastic, and he's been fantastic since Cristiano Ronaldo left. Really, he's really raised his game, and if he got injured or something, I think they'd be in a lot of problems. But no, I mean Bale started as well, which was interesting, and Hazard. But they were pretty comfortable, and it was a good start for them. 4-1 against Alaves. So I think they'll be reasonably happy. But Alaves actually started that game quite well, and for the first half, I think the 4-1 certainly flattered Real Madrid. The other game was the champions, Atletico Madrid. They were away to Celta Vigo on Sunday, and they won 2-1. And this was quite an interesting game for a few different reasons. But of course, there was, if you haven't seen it, there was they'd say it's a brawl, but a bit of pushing and shoving, really, pretty much handbags. But it was so interesting to see Luis Suarez. If you haven't seen it, he plays a pass and it's in the 92nd minute, and he goes down injured and really milks it, just like we all know Suarez can do. The dark arts, he's a master, and the Celta players obviously think, what's this guy doing? And you start getting in his face. It starts a bit of a brawl, but they got the win. Carrera scored 2 great goals, and João Felix is looking like he might be sitting on the bench for a while because Carrera, who last season was very much second fiddle with Suarez, and João Felix looks like he has to start every game now, so that's great for him. And enjoyable first round of La Liga. All 3 of the big boys won, and it's gonna be a really tight fight, that one, I think, and be interesting to see who can come out winning. I think it'll be Atletico if I had to put my money on it, just because they seem the most settled. But you can't ever count out Real Madrid or Barcelona on that one. Some some great games. It's good to have football back. The crowds were fantastic. Looking forward to next week. Personally, Villa against Newcastle. Villa Park full, sold out. It's going to be great. I think with Lukaku coming in and any late signings, it's going to be really interesting to see, how the top four works itself out. In these first few games, will City continue to struggle? They've got some big games in their first few games. I think they've got Arsenal and Liverpool away, maybe United too, but they've got some tough games, and they started pretty poorly last season, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all comes out. So this is my review of the weekend. I hope you all enjoyed it, and please like, subscribe, click the notification button, make a comment, and I'll be coming out with another video like this next week, and one that focuses more on Villa versus Newcastle. So be ready for those, and enjoy the weekend. Enjoy all your football. I hope your team wins, and up the Villa, and we'll see you all next week. See ya.